Welcome back to the Nature of Mental Health. Today we begin a two-part series on the therapeutic benefits of fly fishing. I'm an avid fly angler, and over the last 12 to 15 years, fly fishing has become a primary source of self-care for me. And I'm not alone. There are many programs that use fly fishing as a therapeutic tool for healing. Some of the bigger ones are Casting for Recovery, which supports survivors of breast cancer, and Project Healing Waters, which supports veterans. There are countless stories of how the mindful presence required to fly fish brings peace and solace to people. And I would be remiss if I didn't also speak to the incredibly beautiful places that fly fishing brings you. The opportunities for connection to the natural world are too numerous to count. You are immersed in nature in a very intimate way. To me, there is nothing like standing in the cool water at first light, mist rising from the water as the birds call to each other over the sound of water tumbling over rocks. The early morning rays of light beam through the trees, reflecting off the mist as it begins to lift, and the sound of my fly line catches the crisp morning air. It's a truly magical time for me. Today we meet with Tom Cramer, Director of Operations for Fishing the Good Fight, a nonprofit that utilizes fly fishing as a means to bring men together in community to challenge the stigma of men seeking to pursue their mental health needs. Many men experience societal pressure to keep quiet their own mental health needs and fight through the struggle, often unaware that there is a community of support out there for them to connect with. In this thoughtful conversation, Tom describes the three-prong approach used to support men as they find their way toward healing. Stick around as we discuss how Fishing the Good Fight uses fly fishing to connect with nature, ourselves, and each other as they support men pursuing positive mental health. Welcome to the Nature of Mental Health, the podcast where we explore how time outdoors supports emotional well-being, resilience, and healing. I'm your host, Will Henry, clinical social worker, nature-informed therapist, and founder of Riverstone Mental Health Collective. Join me as we dive into practical tools, meaningful conversations, and inspiring stories that help us reconnect with the natural world and ourselves. Thanks for being here. Let's get started. Thank you for joining me again on the Nature of Mental Health. As part of the series on the benefits of fly fishing and nature, we're here today with Tom Cramer, Director of Operations for Fishing the Good Fight, an organization that uses nature, fly fishing, and community to challenge the stigma and provide an alternate pathway for supporting men's mental health. It's such an important topic to talk about, and I'm really happy to have you here, Tom.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Will.
Very welcome. I thought we could start by talking about the origins of Fishing the Good Fight. How did the organization come to be? How did it start? When did it start?
Yeah, so we are right about 7 years old now, and our founders were friends. They're high school friends from Atlanta, and both of them got to a point in their lives where things shifted for them, and they found themselves struggling with their own mental health. And both of them were introduced to fly fishing and found a lot of solace in the sport and a lot of relief for their mental health symptoms and issues. And, they ended up in Denver. One of them, Jennings Hester, really one of the reasons he moved to Denver was so that he could fly fish more, because it was helping him out so much, and he just wanted to get more involved in the sport and the community.
Right.
And they were having this shared experience and wanted to pay it forward to other men. So they started by just tying flies in a local brewery in Denver, and they would sell the flies and donate all the proceeds to supporting men's mental health, whether it was other mental health organizations or supporting guys in paying for therapy. But that was the whole nonprofit, was just tying flies and selling flies and donating the proceeds to men's mental health. And then eventually they got the idea to get some guys out fly fishing for a weekend and to bring a therapist along for that fly fishing outing and to provide therapy to the guys during that weekend. So they they went out for just like a 2-night experience. A group of guys fly fish together, and then did group therapy facilitated by a licensed therapist. And it went so well and was so powerful that they really decided to switch the program entirely to that. So they kind of phased out the fly tying and started running these mental health focused fly fishing retreats for men. And that's really where it all got started. And now, we're in 2 states with 4 chapters, and we're running 9 of these retreats this year. We still provide scholarships for men to pursue therapy on their own, and we provide regular ongoing community building and fly fishing programming and mental health programming in these 4 different locations. So guys can come on retreats, and then they get involved with our local Fishing the Good Fight communities.
I love that. That's such a important piece, is that you bring licensed therapists along with you on these retreats, and it really I feel like it gives the participants like a taste of therapy, because we talk about the stigma, right? That the barriers that men face. I'll get to that in a second. I wanted to say I've been watching you guys for a couple of years, and the growth that you've had really has been remarkable. Like how you went from just a couple of retreats, right, to like 9 this year, you said? Yeah.
It has.
What do you attribute that to?
It's gone really fast. I wish I had a great answer to that, other than I think that this model, this approach, it just really speaks to a lot of people, and not just men. So I think it speaks to men, this opportunity to pursue their mental health in a different way. I don't think it's that men don't want to work on their mental health and heal and grow and learn new things about themselves and be better friends and partners. I think men want that, but I think some men are not interested in the options that they see available for that. And this model of being out in nature and doing it in community rather than, kind of outside community, I think really calls to men. And I think also a lot of men just have dreams about fly fishing at some point in their lives, whether they're active in it or, they've read a river runs through it and just think it looks beautiful. I think,
there you go.
There's something about the sport that I think interests a lot of folks. So I think there's
absolutely. I can't tell you how many. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, well, just that there's a lot of appeal to go out and fly fish for a weekend on beautiful water. It's a pretty easy pitch.
It is. I was going to say, I can't tell you how many like friends or friends of friends have told me their husband's bachelor parties consisted of fly fishing in Montana or in Colorado, or going out with the guys for a weekend to fly fish. It's such there is absolutely a calling for that. Well, exactly. I mentioned barriers of that men face in pursuing mental health support. Can we talk about that for a second? Like what kind of, I know a lot of men were kind of socialized to be tough, to stuff it down, to fight through the discomfort, and along with what you're saying that, and I think it's powerful what you're saying, that men are looking for support, but in a community setting. And I think that there's something powerful to that, which, what do you think about the barriers and the stigma and all of that?
Yeah. I think unfortunately there are so many barriers to mental health for all of us, and some particular barriers for men. And I do think that there is a stigma around seeking help for everybody. But I think that stigma is strong in some unique ways for men, because I think it challenges our conception of masculinity. And I think,
Absolutely.
a lot of men feel that masculinity is a really important part of their identity, that they need to uphold and fulfill for themselves, for
Hmm.
their family, for their friends, and that the idea of struggling with mental health and needing help, it really, I think, threatens that identity. So I think there's some fear around pursuing that because of that perceived threat. Um, and,
Yeah.
as you said, I do think some people just the idea of going in a little room and sitting on a couch and talking to someone for an hour, it's just not how they want to go about it. It works great for some people.
Right. Right.
I've gone to therapy for
Hmm.
years and I find it really beneficial, that format. But I also think a lot of us are in a bit of a community deficit, whether, we realize it or not. And I think
Hmm.
uh, at some level, we're really craving and seeking community and wanting to get support and to heal through community, not through, outside of community. And I think that's a really wise impulse that we have. I think we should,
Yeah.
listen to that and honor it.
I 100% agree. I think, and community is a really important piece of your approach at fishing the good fight. I know there's like a three-pronged approach we'd spoken about, and community is one of those, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
And what are the three prongs? And let's kind of dive into that.
Yeah. So the three prongs are fly fishing, community, and therapy. And to
Hmm.
translate those just a little bit more, all three are really about connection. So for
Yeah.
us, fly fishing is about connection to nature. So we chose fly fishing, but you could do this model with any nature-based activity.
Hmm.
And then therapy is about connection to self. So we believe that is essential as well. And it doesn't have to come through traditional one-on-one talk therapy, but some sort of mental health activity support, that helps you connect to self. And then
Right.
community is about connection to others. Um, and we believe that those 3 points of connection are just essential for all of us to live vibrant, healthy, fulfilling lives, to be connected to nature, to self, and to others. It sounds really
Yeah.
simple, saying it out loud, and it's like, yeah, of course we need that. But I think unfortunately, a lot of us are lacking one or all of those points of connection. Um, and we
It's a
found,
really holistic approach.
yeah, and to be honest, we stumbled upon it. We started with these retreats. We knew fly fishing was beneficial for mental health, and not from reading studies, but from just experiencing it, from our
Hmm.
founders and our early participants just experiencing it. And they didn't need anything more than that to tell them, like, this helps. This helps.
Right.
And then they also, benefited from therapy and mental health support. So wanted to spread that to more men as well. But the community, which has in some ways been it has become the most important prong for us, was at first the
Mm.
afterthought. And it was from these initial retreats and observing what happened and observing what was powerful for the men, that early on they realized, like, oh, this is all about community. And that's why
Yeah.
men are seeking us out. And that's also where they're finding some of the most potent impact, is from the experience of being with other men and being open and authentic and a little bit vulnerable, and the power of that you just can't do alone.
That's absolutely true. And it's the vulnerability is such an important piece, because sharing that with another person, another man, a group, is part of the process of healing, right? Because you're talking about, we're communal based, organisms, right? We all are. And connection is such an important piece of that. And connecting with these other men, and with yourselves and with nature is such a holistic, place to sit in the world and work on healing, because you feel supported.
Yeah.
All around.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I really like about our approach is that all three of those things are happening simultaneously. That these three things that are like essential to being human, we're interweaving all three of them together. So you don't have to go work on your mental health and not have community and not have nature. You don't have to go into nature and not have community. You don't need to be in community and not also be working on your mental health. Like, the idea that these things need to be separate, and I think in our world they often do get separated, I think is hurting us as well, to believe that we can't bring all of those things together in our lives. And so that I just really appreciate that, at our retreats and our programs, all of those things are always interwoven.
That's wonderful. What do you see, like, if you want to talk like specifically about nature, or nature specifically about fly fishing, really, what are some like of the psychological benefits of, so we've got community piece, but if you were to single out nature and fly fishing, what are some psychological benefits of that toward your mental health? Like, what are some things you experience or see or have personally experienced?
Yeah. The number one thing that, I mean, there's so much there. But when we host these retreats, when guys are out on the water, when they're engaged fly fishing, what they notice, I think, most often is just that the thoughts slow down a little bit. Those repetitive thoughts, worries, fears, planning
judgments
ahead, regrets, anxieties, all of that starts to quiet a little bit. Those things that aren't present moment oriented. And the sport of fly fishing, or any activity in nature, I think it can bring us more into the present moment. And I think it gives us a taste of feeling our nervous system calm and regulate, and feeling our thoughts slow down, and seeing evidence that I'm still okay, that I'm not anxiously planning ahead or worrying about something I did or said, and I'm okay. And I think
it's okay to just be.
Exactly. Safety in just being, and that we don't always need these thoughts to protect us. We can be in the present moment, let that calm down, and see that we're okay just being. And I think enough repetitions of that and seeing enough evidence that that is true, I think it can start to integrate into our lives outside of that sport or activity, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. And it takes, sometimes, I mean, I love that they're weekend long retreats, because, that gives you time to kind of settle in, to really go experience, process, go back out, re-experience, and like take what you've processed, apply it. I think how long are the retreats? They're 2 nights, 3 nights.
Yeah, most of them are just 2 nights, Friday to Sunday. So it's really just 48 hours, which is kind of unbelievable, because they can feel like a week or a month, just with how powerful and impactful they are. It's hard to believe that it all happens in just 48 hours. But we've experimented with a few 4-day, 3-night retreats, and those tend to be even more powerful and impactful. But We want to make
Right,
these
right.
approachable for guys who have busy schedules and families, and allowing them to,
Yeah,
carve
yeah,
out just
yeah.
a couple days.
That makes a lot of sense, and totally understand. I think even a day can be beneficial, can be therapeutic, can be, insightful. But I think that you're right. The 2 day, the 48 hours, 2 nights, gives you a chance to bond with these other men, right? I imagine,
Yeah.
develop some camaraderie, feel vulnerable, feel after that, the safety that they experience in the groups while being vulnerable, which is, to me, I think one of the most important pieces I hear, when you talk about community, right?
One thing we talk about on our team, with our volunteers, is that our job really is to just provide a container for men to have an experience.
Mm.
We're not puppeteering their experience. We're not, you know, forcing any particular insights or growth for them. We just want to provide them with a really safe, welcoming, stable container for that 48 hours where they feel that they can let their guard down a little bit and they can be a little more
Yeah,
vulnerable, and then they can have whatever experience they need to have. So there aren't
love
specific
that.
like outcomes that we're seeking other than that they
Mm-hmm.
feel like they've grown and been supported and received some benefit from the experience. But it's really about providing them with that container, which requires a lot of intentional effort to do. But within that, they get to play basically and explore and try and do things that maybe they haven't felt comfortable doing outside of that container.
Right. And so, that's very well put. In that container of safety, of community, right? Providing that opportunity. I love it the way you framed it, for them to play and experience whatever they experience,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
giving them the freedom and the independence and autonomy and all of that stuff.
Totally.
Um, well, what is a typical like retreat schedule, right? I'm guessing so Friday to Sunday.
Yep.
What do they experience in the course of a retreat?
Yeah, so they arrive, after work on a Friday. We have dinner together. We do a little orientation, and then right away they go into their first group therapy session with our retreat
Mm-hmm.
therapist, um, to really start getting acquainted with that process. But before that group therapy session is a whole group introduction, which is one of the most important parts of our retreat. Um, Retreats typically have 8 participants, uh, but 11 or 12 volunteers. So the volunteer
Yeah.
team is actually larger than the participant team, and most of our volunteers have been participants themselves, so they really understand
Oh,
the
wow.
experience. And throughout
Uh-huh.
the weekend, both groups are really like integrated together. There aren't two groups on different sides of a line. We are all sharing this experience, and we're not pretending that the experience isn't equally powerful for the volunteers. And I think
Yeah.
that that's really important too, to maybe counter this misconception of like what happens when you are open and vulnerable and when you work on yourself. I think maybe it can seem like a selfish thing sometimes of like, taking
Yeah.
time to work on yourself, taking time maybe away from your family or your job. But what we show experientially is by these guys showing up for this retreat and working on themselves, we all benefit. Like every single person there is
Yeah.
benefiting. And our volunteers clamor to go on these retreats because for one, they want to give back. They care so much. They're so passionate. They want to pay it forward. And they really genuinely want to help men, any man, improve their life.
Mm.
And they know that these retreats benefit them too. and they benefit me every
Yeah.
single time I go on one. So at that opening session, we speak to that, and we all share why we're here, and we share a little bit about our own mental health journey, and everybody gets to see that we're all bringing something and that we all need help. The participants, the volunteers, we all have something that we're struggling with and could use support from others and from community. And we just talk about that together. And it, again, is a really simple but really powerful thing to see that this is a shared collective experience where we're all showing up and we're all benefiting from each other showing up.
That's so huge. And you're building that container you speak of together, right? So
Yeah.
that really is
Yeah.
instilling that safety that you know, are talking
Exactly.
about. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Saturday, our only full day, we have a couple group therapy sessions throughout the day, but the rest of the day is just fly fishing on really beautiful water. In Colorado, we fish on the Arkansas River near Salida, and
Okay.
the South Platte River near Lake George, Colorado. So we have these beautiful sections of river we get to fish on together, and that's most of our day on Saturday is fishing. And each
That's a
man,
good to not, sorry to interrupt you. I wanted to ask about that. So you spend the whole day fly fishing. Like, how do people come and learn? How do they learn? What's their experience level? What does that look like?
yeah, so we have all ends of the spectrum. We have guys who have never touched a rod before, and we have guys who have been fly fishing, 80-year-old guys who have been fly fishing their entire life, and
Right.
all are welcome. Each man is paired up with a volunteer fly fishing instructor, and these fishing instructors are largely they're not like certified guides. They're just guys who have been fly fishing long enough that they know enough to teach somebody else some of the foundational fly fishing skills. And they're guys who are emotionally available too. It's partially about the fly fishing, but it's partly to pair the participant with a peer who can continue to support them throughout their retreat experience in more than just fly fishing. Also can be a sounding board and a partner in their growth throughout the weekend. So we are incredibly thoughtful about the pairings, and a lot of thought goes into how to pair these guys based on their fishing ability and where they're at with their fly fishing skills, but also based on maybe life experience and goals and background. And, maybe we pair someone who's about to retire with a volunteer who went through retirement a few years ago and can kind of, mirror the experience for that guy.
Yeah. And empathize, understand. Yeah, totally.
Exactly. And then, for guys who have never fly fished before, that instructor is really giving them the foundational skills and tips around, how to rig, how to approach and read the water, how to select flies and casting and fish handling and all of those foundational skills. We really want to, we take pride in getting to teach folks to fly fish. And if someone says like, oh, I learned how to fly fish from fishing the good fight, we want them to be like exemplary models of what a respectful, humble, thoughtful fly fisher, angler looks like.
Right. Yeah. That's wonderful. So they spend the day with a guide, and then fly fishing, and then the evenings, dinner, I'm guessing, and what's the rest of the retreat look like?
Yeah, we do all of our meals together. We have lunch alongside the river, and then we head back to our lodge for dinner, where we cook like just a big shared family style meal together. Everybody eats together. We do some fly fishing instruction in the evening where maybe we'll learn a little more about casting or etymology, fly selection, things like that. And then Saturday night and the evening after dinner is just unstructured hang time. And for a lot of us, it's one of the most special moments of the retreat because it's like 24 hours after we were all sitting incredibly nervously and anxiously in that opening session, nobody knowing each other,
Uh-huh.
not knowing what
Yep.
this was going to be. And then Saturday night, it feels like a party where you've known, all of these guys for your entire life. So it's just amazing to see how quickly that happens. And then Sunday,
Yeah.
they do a little more group therapy. We have a final block of fly fishing, and then we close out with a little closing circle and send everybody on their way.
That sounds like a great experience, really. Very powerful. I love the idea of 24 hours later getting to kind of take stock in just met these guys, but they feel like, brothers in arms kind of.
Yeah.
It's really great.
It's a really cool model. And we're still figuring out how to make it more effective, and we're still learning why it is so effective in the first place. And I think one of the things that I love about it is that after the group therapy sessions, all the men are immediately embraced by the larger community. Like they're going and meeting up with the rest of the volunteers where they're welcomed and embraced and can be supported if they have more to digest and process, or they can just go have fun out on the river together. And I think, again, it's just so different than, I think, the isolation that can be felt from traditional therapy. Again, not bad-mouthing traditional therapy. I love it. It helps me a ton. But it can be something that, you go off alone to do. And when you leave your session, you are often alone for a little while. And it just makes me think about if you went to therapy and you walked out the door of the therapist office and 10 of your friends were standing there ready to embrace you right after that session. How cool would that be?
Right.
And that's basically what happens on these retreats is you maybe you dig a little deep, you process some emotions, you do a little work, but then right when you leave, you're embraced by all these guys who are just happy to see you.
And that's, again, the community piece you're talking about, and safety in numbers, kind of. But I don't mean that in the traditional sense. I mean, being able to be vulnerable and then be met by the community and accepted and empathize with, because they're all doing that, right? Everyone has experience on night one. You share about how what everyone's bringing to the table. And then, they go through these group therapy sessions, come out, met by the community, supported, lifted up. That's one of the things I wanted to say was it sounds like your retreats are not about saying, thanks for coming, I know you need help, let me help you. It's about, let me lift you up and we're going to support you. And we're all doing this together. We're building this event, this weekend together. And it's a group experience, which is really, really beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. And it tends to be for everybody, I think, volunteers and participants, the whole group. The retreats are about experiencing and feeling growth and change and relief and connection. And they're not so much about figuring out. I think sometimes we might think I need to figure out why I'm so anxious, or I need to figure out why I'm always so angry with this one person. And, after our retreats, both anecdotally and in evaluations, guys aren't saying oh man, this retreat really helped me figure out, my work issue. They're saying, oh, this retreat helped me feel accepted and understood and that I belong. They are feeling and experiencing these things so that they know that they're true on a deeper level than the mind, I think.
And that's an important piece, the acceptance and the on a deeper level. Do you have any more like anecdotal stories or experiences that really, things that you've experienced or you've heard about at the retreats that are, powerful?
Yeah, well, I'll practice vulnerability and just share my own to start. When I started with
Okay.
this organization, I went on a retreat as a participant. And it was really cool because
Yeah.
everybody at the organization was like, you need to do this. You need to go experience this firsthand before, coming on to the team side of things. And I think that was super wise. And I didn't have high expectations for my own experience at the retreat, um, because I felt like I had done a lot of things like this in my life. I'd done a lot of different retreats and experiences that maybe felt similar. And I think I felt like, oh, I know how this works. Like, I know what this is going to be like. But
Uh-huh.
I was so humbled by how impactful it really was for me. And what
Uh-huh.
it came down to for me, I think was pretty simple, was that I had this opportunity to share with a group of men. And I think that was particularly important for me because I think it's a little harder for me to be vulnerable with men. And I think there are other folks who can relate to that it's a little challenging to like bare your soul vulnerably with a group of peer men. So the
Mhm.
opportunity to open up and share, and then to experience that nobody ran away, and
Right.
everybody was there with me for the whole weekend after sharing these vulnerable, sensitive parts of myself, that we
Mhm.
were still hanging out at meals around the table. We were still fishing together, that I didn't lose any of these people or lose any connection by being vulnerable. I actually strengthened that connection. And I think there's something powerful about the experience of that and having it happen, in community with peers. Because I think, with a traditional uh, therapy relationship, at some level, I think we know that we're paying this person to help us, right?
Mhm.
They have some sort of responsibility to stay in that seat and not freak out when we tell them, whatever we need to share. But in a group of peers, um, we're not paying anybody to be there for us. These are just guys just like us who are willing to sit and listen and support us because they want to. So for me, that was really
Right.
powerful, to be able to do that sharing and to be received in that way. And I think that tends to be powerful for a lot of our guys. But
I
I
imagine
mean,
so.
yeah, yeah,
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate your being vulnerable with that. And the stories must be really, at this point, years later, right? You must have a million of them and see that 9 times this year, 9 retreats this year. That's amazing. And to see, I imagine at least half having these really powerful experiences.
yeah.
It's
Oh,
got to be really
absolutely.
rewarding.
Yeah, the stories are
Yeah.
endless. Yeah.
So I want to go back to the community topic because it doesn't just stop at the end of the retreat. How do you maintain the community? Because I think that's such an important piece and hard for a lot of organizations to do. How do you all do it?
Yeah, yeah. Um, it is hard. It has taken us a lot of work and effort to figure out how to do that, and we're still learning. But we
Mhm.
have these incredibly passionate volunteers. I mean, that's our, I don't know. I'm just so amazed by the passion and dedication of the volunteers in this community, and They volunteer their time to plan weekly events for guys to continue to connect and come together after the retreat. So we do
Weekly. Wow.
yeah, pretty much weekly. It varies a little bit, but that's about where we're at now. So we do fly tying nights where we'll get together and tie flies, and we call them not just fly tying nights, KNOT.
Love it.
Because we do want it to just be a place for guys to come out and hang, even if they don't feel like tying flies. We do fish-alongs. So, hey, we're all going to meet up at this river and just fish on a Saturday afternoon together. We do men's nights, which are basically peer-led support groups led by our volunteers, and those have become our most popular program in some of our chapters. We have some of the highest attendance is at those men's nights where all we're doing is sitting around and talking for a couple hours, which is pretty cool. And then we do fun things like, bowling nights, or we'll go hit some balls at Topgolf or something like that. And then we do a virtual monthly series called Off the Water, where we bring in a speaker on a topic related to men's mental health, and guys get to reconnect. And it's kind of like a live podcast like this. And we interview a guy and learn from him. So there are all these ways to stay connected. We try to make them accessible. They're all free. Maybe sometimes there's like a little fee for parking or something wherever we're going to fish, but we try to keep them really accessible, low barrier to entry. And they're there for everyone. And it is a cool way where our community comes together as one. Our volunteers are participating in these events as participants. It's not like you cross into becoming a volunteer and then that's all you do. You continue to participate in the programs, as well. Yeah. You bounce back and forth equally.
Yeah. You bounce back and forth. I love that. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So you're located in Denver and Atlanta, right?
Yeah, so we're in Colorado. We are in Denver and Colorado Springs. Those are our two chapter locations. And then in Georgia, we are in Atlanta, and then Rome, a town northwest of Georgia. So those 4 different chapters, and each chapter is running programming like that.
And so when you were talking about all these things you do, a lot of those were in person, actually, right?
Yeah. Most of them are.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that at the when you were saying it. Wow, that's even more impressive.
Yeah. It's cool, and the fact that after a long work day, guys are willing to make the drive and turn out for these things, I think speaks a lot to it. But
for sure,
I think like those activities are incredibly important. They provide a regular opportunity for people to come out, be in community, reconnect, to see that like the retreat experience isn't just a one and done thing. And we know that that's the case with mental health. We're not going to have one experience that's going to like solve us. We think that mental health comes from maintaining connection to nature, to yourself, and to others, and that takes a little effort, and it takes showing up, and that's why we consistently. Yeah, exactly. But I will say one of the coolest things about our community is that it extends beyond these planned events, and these guys, like they just call each other up, to check in, to say hi. Knowing someone's going through a hard time, they reach out, they invite them to go fish.
Wow.
And it doesn't happen on its own. Like, you can't stand on the sidelines in a community. Like, you also have to show up and reach out to others too. And I think we all learn that through this community, that we both need people reaching out to us, but we also sometimes need to be the one reaching out too. But it's really cool how that has happened organically, that guys are just supporting each other in a really authentic way outside of any formal type of program.
Absolutely. Authenticity. That's great. And you really, you set the stage for that with the safety, the community, or, you know, I was going to say organization, but like just the container, that's the word I was looking for, that you create in those retreats that carries on, because that's not just in those retreats, right? That container, that safety is with each other in the community, and the community carries on, and you maintain that. And that's really a beautiful thing.
Exactly.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
So if someone wanted to sign up for a retreat, right? They just go on the website, or they wanted to volunteer.
Yeah.
You just visit the website, or what's, tell me about that.
Yep. Well, we're a very, I think, accessible, organization. So you could just call me up. You could send me an email, and, you know, I'll help you out. I'll get you involved. But yeah, you can absolutely go on the website and see all of our retreats and register there. I do want to take the chance to share that we have a true pay what you can approach. There is no set price for these retreats. We never want money to be a reason why you aren't able to work on your mental health. So we do a lot of fundraising to make sure that these retreats are accessible to everybody, regardless of that. So you name your price and we'll make it work for you. And yeah, you can also find the volunteer application on the website. 2 caveats to that right now is our retreats are almost full for the year. We've got a couple spots left in our November retreat in Georgia, so definitely check that out. But our retreats open up for registration again early in 2027, so I encourage people to keep it on their radar, and, you know, January, February, take a look and see if you can get signed up.
Yeah. If someone wants, you said you do a lot of fundraising. How does that look? How do people donate to help out, to give back, or to just give?
Yeah, absolutely. The easiest way is to donate on our website. We've got a donation page. And yeah, I mean, that's essential. We need all the help we can get in order to keep these programs accessible, and just know that your dollars are going towards really deserving men who are doing an often scary and courageous thing by acknowledging that they need some help and getting some help. So that's where your money would be going, is to supporting those deserving men.
I really appreciate everything you all do. I think it's such an important piece of the puzzle. I know there are several organizations out there that you know, use fly fishing as a therapeutic tool, and I'm so glad that you all are one of them, and existing in that world, and creating that container and that space for men to feel safe, to be vulnerable, to grow and to share, and then you help maintain that through your community that you're building. That's really such an important piece.
Yeah. Thank you. We love it too.
That's so great, Tom. Thank you so much for being here with me today. And next time we'll be meeting with Reeling in Serenity, which is a group I'm involved in that does fly fishing retreats for people in recovery from substance use disorders. So we'll be excited to talk about that, and tune in, and I'll talk to you later, Tom.
Awesome. Thanks, Will.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to The Nature of Mental Health. If you enjoyed today's episode, please follow, rate, and share the show. It helps others find their way to this community. For more resources, visit riverstonementalhealth.com. Until next time, notice the small spaces where nature meets your day. Stay curious, and may you find resilience in every season.